So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Liz Sands. Liz is the outreach coordinator at Common Ground Food Cooperative. She's a Champaign native who studied anthropology at the University of Illinois at Chicago, after which she spent 6 years working as a bartender. Liz is excited to be here today to combine the exciting world of cocktails with teaching about our dynamic food system.
A shrub is a drinking vinegar. They're really good in cocktails. And this one I actually tried just on top of soda water and it was delicious. So if you're not wanting to have a cocktail and you just want a nice drink, it adds a lot of flavor. So the additional component that makes it a little different than a simple syrup is vinegar. So we're going to use apple cider vinegar, but there are some variations that use white vinegar or other kinds. When I made this the first time, I was with Sarah Buckman, who's here, and she had just had a jar of thyme-infused apple cider vinegar, which was pretty good. We don't have that today, unfortunately, but there's a lot you can do with it. And shrubs I haven't seen them too many places, but they've been around for centuries now, but I guess they had a little bit of a revival about 10 years ago and are really popping back up more in bars and craft cocktails and things like that. And they're really, really easy. The only thing is they sit for a little bit. So unfortunately, we won't be drinking this today, but there is a recipe that I provided for when it's done. It's a Blackberry-Basil Mule. So similar to a Moscow Mule, it has the lime juice and the vodka. You'll add a little bit of blackberries, some basil, and then ginger beer on top. I really love blackberry cocktails. I didn't realize that until a couple years ago. I moved into a house and there was a little shed in the backyard and this huge bush growing around it that I was going to eradicate. And my neighbor, thankfully, told me it was a blackberry bush. And so the ones that grew there, they're about half the size of the ones that we provided today, but I let them grow. And pretty much all summer, I just made blackberry mojitos and they were delicious. And this is really, really good. It has that rosemary in it, which it's just a subtle flavor, but it'll be infused with the rosemary. So it gives it that flavor. And then with the cocktail, you can also garnish with a little bit more, and it's very tasty. So for this, we basically let me go through what we need for this. So you should all have a package of blackberries, 2 rosemary sprigs, another container of a cup of sugar, a couple of apple cider vinegar, and then a jar. This will be the quantities, it's a little bit bigger. So kind of this size jar, I think this is what do we have here? Pint? Yeah, or a little bit bigger would be good. And then a bowl to mix everything and just a spoon. So the first thing we do for this is we're gonna mash the sugar and the blackberries together, and that's gonna sit for a little bit. So just put them together in a bowl. If you have a muddler or a mortar and pestle, that works too, but it's not really necessary. What I have found is just to kind of, before you start stirring, just kind of like, just really go at those blackberries and kind of just break them up a little bit. We want it to be completely incorporated. So kind of just try and break each one up with the end of a spoon until they're in smaller pieces, and then you can start to stir it all together and it'll form into a more liquidy mixture. And we're just using a whole pack, but if you were ever to get like a larger quantity of blackberries, or if you grow your own, a 1-to-1 ratio is pretty good. So this would be a cup of blackberries. This will just be a few minutes of everybody just stabbing their blackberries. And I have not tried this, but I don't see any reason why this wouldn't work exactly the same with raspberries or other similar berries. I just prefer blackberries. So once they start to break up a little bit, try and start stirring and incorporating the sugar with the blackberries. We really want them to be very, very thoroughly mixed where you kind of can't even see the sugar. So you want to get all the juices out of the blackberries. But a lot of these would work with other liquors as well. The blackberry rosemary shrub would be really good with gin. I bet it would even be good with bourbon. There's a lot you can do with these flavors. But this you don't have to do anything with. Just make sure it's in a well-sealed jar or container, and you can just forget about it in the fridge until, what's today, Saturday, Tuesday or Wednesday, at least 3 days. But if you don't want to wait any longer, that'll be fine. 3 to 5. It's kind of fun. If anyone needs to get a little energy out, smashing up those berries, it's a fun activity. Okay, hopefully everyone's shrub is looking good. We will just set that aside for now. So that also needs to sit for about 15 minutes. Doesn't need to go in the fridge. You can just set it aside. So now we can move on to finishing off the shrub. So we're just going to do this first step and then it's going to go in the fridge, but I have one that I made a few days ago. So I will just show you the process of straining it out. So this is pretty simple. It could get a little messy. So if you have a funnel, that might be helpful. Or if you wanted to utilize the liquid measuring cup, just so it has a little spout. So basically what we need here is your bowl of sugar and blackberries, your 2 rosemary sprigs, and then your cup of apple cider vinegar. And I found a bigger jar. I'm going to go ahead and use that because it does produce quite a bit. But again, for this one, even just a Tupperware would be fine. It doesn't need to, nothing needs to happen to it after it goes in the fridge. It just sits for a little while. So anything that you can find is fine. So I'm just gonna pop the rosemary in there. I'm going to very carefully spoon this into my jar. All right. And then you'll just pour the whole cup of vinegar on top. And seal it up and give it a little shake. And that is pretty much it. It's going to smell mostly just like apple cider vinegar for now, but it will be super delicious. Again, this just goes in the fridge for 3 to 5 days. And then once you're ready, there is the cocktail. It included the Blackberry-Basil Mule, but I will show you when I strain it out what it looks like just with soda water, because it's really, really beautiful in color and it is delicious. Not quite on its own, but with a little soda water to cut it. It's a little much by itself, but it's just a great addition to a lot of different drinks. Okay, so I have one here that I made. Yes, this is the right one, that I made a few days ago. And it's pretty simple. We're literally just going to strain it into a different jar, but I can kind of show you what it looks like once all of the solids have been removed. Hopefully don't make a huge mess here. Splattering a little bit back at me, so be careful with that. I'm actually maybe gonna put this in a bowl. No, I think it's okay. So it's draining out. Oh, perfect. Pretty slowly. I'm just gonna dump what's in here right now and do the rest over the sink so we can move on here. I'll be right back with you. Okay, I was trying to hurry, so mine's a little messy, but if you just go slow and take your time letting all the liquids really strain through before you add more to it, then it should be no problem. And just to show you really quickly, so again, we don't have a ton of great cups in this kitchen. We just have this little guy here, but I would just probably do about a ½ ounce of the shrub. It is pretty powerful in flavor. And I just want to show you kind of the color because it's very beautiful. It's very, very deep red. And then if you just top it off with a little soda water, it is delicious. It looks a little crazy right now with it. It's super, super carbonated with the soda water and the vinegar, but it's delicious on its own. And it's really, really good with the ginger beer and the basil. So in a couple days when it's ready, I hope everyone enjoys that cocktail as well.